Yep.
South Melbourne FC would like to take a moment to honour the life of Con Chamos and George Cardone, two proud South Melbourne Hellas men who sadly passed away in recent times. For over 50 years, both Con and George stood with their families in support of their club. Today, just like other countless match days before, they would have been here, proud, passionate and present. And their families are here today. In an era where it's become easy to drift away, support other clubs or to find excuses not to show up, they never did. They were South through and through, at games, in the background helping out and always representing our community. As a tribute to their legacy, we'll now play the trumpet, a sound etched in our history, followed by we asking you to join us in a round of applause. We'll miss you both endlessly. Rest easy, boys.
Bernardo, and I'm joined here today by Katie Lambeski for all the action. Katie, this is a very interesting contest because, as sort of mentioned, this game in years gone by, we've seen it in finals, cup finals, grand finals, but right now it feels as far as of a possibility of that at least for the home side tonight.
It does. It does. South coming into this at the opposite side of the form spectrum, right? Oakleigh, well in that contendership for that Premier's plate, even for the championship, we all know that. But South very much near the relegation zone, and no one would have picked that. No one would have picked Melbourne Knights and South Melbourne together near the relegation zone. Melbourne Knights in it, of course, after last night. But this is always a big game. Two big, proud clubs, what they of course represent, the history, the rivalry. A lot of form tends to go out the window for this game. When these two teams roll around. So, I can't see South getting it done tonight. Stranger things have happened, of course. Oakleigh in the driver's seat coming here tonight at Lakeside. So, looking forward to bringing to you all what should be a very intriguing 90 minutes any which way.
Well, it's a new era for South Melbourne, of course. Sinisa Kohadzic taking over as the caretaker boss during the week. They got a win in the Doherty Cup against Bentley Greens and hoping to continue that form here tonight against Oakleigh, who are coming into this contest off the back of a 2-1 loss against Heidelberg. As we get things underway, it is South Melbourne in their traditional blue kits going from left to right, and Oakleigh, their away white kits going from right to left. We'll take you through the team news in just a second. But South Melbourne are in behind here. Here's Kingsley Sinclair along the deck. Still a chance here at the back post. Kasumovic is waiting. And Javi Lopez making the save. And South Melbourne already on the back foot within a matter of seconds into this contest. Haven't even had a chance to catch our breath. And Oakleigh almost finding the scoreboard first.
30 seconds in, Oakleigh wasting very little time there. Javi Lopez had to be on point, look, as he so often is. The challenge is being thrown down early on. Kingsley Sinclair, Asad Kasumovic just drifting off to that left wing spot as well. So he's going to be a danger, and South are going to have their hands full tonight.
So South Melbourne making 3 changes from the side that played against Avondale last in the league. Lucas Inglese, Morgan Evans and Charlie Leach into the starting 11. Andy Brennan, Jake Marshall and Cooper Halfpenny all out of the starting 11. Brennan and Marshall out of the squad entirely through injury, joining Noel Bernardo and Ross Archibald on that absentee list. A lot of key players missing for South Melbourne. Oakleigh, on the other hand, making just the one change. Cam McGill back in the starting lineup in for Matthew Dench, a very handy inclusion for the Oakleigh Cannons. Just rounding out that starting 11 for South Melbourne. Harvey Lopez in goals, Lampard, Yankovic, Inglese, George Mells, Robert Harding, Max Mikla, Morgan Evans, Jack Paynter-Andrews, Charlie Leach and Jack Pope. While for Oakleigh, Nick Feely, Brodie Boyce, Connor Hampson, Jordan Hall, Jacob Tratt, Cam McGill, Alex Salmon, Joe Guest, Kingsley Sinclair, Campbell Strong and Asad Kasumovic. Tell you what, beautiful evening for football, Katie. We're not going to get too many of these sort of nights as we close in on winter, but it is a fantastic night for football. Beautiful, balmy conditions. It will cool down. As we all know, it gets very cold once the sun sets at Lakeside.
Absolutely. Once that wind, that chill comes through, once the sun goes down, sometimes can make you question your life choices in the middle of winter. However, no risk of that tonight, you think. Not a breath of wind either. Glorious conditions for it on this Mother's Day as well. So happy Mother's Day to everyone out there. Gorgeous pitch as well. We have everything here, I think, for a very good contest. As South look to respond here through an early cross.
Nicholas ball in is collected by Nick Feely. And the Cannons looking to push the pace back the other way. Hampson feeding it through towards Kasumovic. It's the back in his speed here against Inglese. And he goes to ground inside the box, and it's a penalty. And Lucas Inglese pleading his case. He goes into the referee's notebook, a yellow card. And the perfect start potentially here for Oakleigh. Conversely, a horror start here for the home side. And the last thing that South Melbourne needed is to potentially go behind inside the opening 5 minutes. And, well, the speed there of Kasumovic causing problems for the South Melbourne defence.
Absolutely it did, and I feel like that's a penalty every day of the week. Lockie Keever's very much determined on that one, very much clear on that one. Just that transitional play that Oakleigh so often have mastered under Chris Taylor, really reaping dividends. Then Kasumovic's pace on the break has Jake Paynter-Andrews for company, I think, mostly tonight. He's going to have his hands full if that's any indication.
So it's Joe Guest assuming responsibility. And it's saved by Lopez, and on the rebound, Guest buries it. His 10th goal of the season. And a brilliant stop by the Spaniard. But Joe Guest makes no mistake on the second attempt. And Oakleigh take the lead. And Joe Guest, who is making a real case for not only the Golden Boot this season, but the FV Gold Medal, off the mark here tonight. And he reaches double digits. Only his second ever goal against South Melbourne. And there we go. Oakleigh in the lead. They strike first here at Lakeside.
Rolled gold, Joe Guest. Absolutely spot on there. Could have struck that penalty to the bottom right-hand corner. Was able to just slam home that rebound. Quality performer at this level. Even when the penalty doesn't quite go his way, he still finds a way to make it work anyway. That's a brilliant start for Oakleigh. Joe Guest, that's so often at the forefront of everything Oakleigh do creatively. Getting it done in front of goal once again this season, putting up some ridiculous numbers already.
Well, that is now, I believe, his 59th goal in NPL Victoria. His second all-time for Oakleigh, behind Dusan Bosniak. And he's made such a big impact here. 6th season now at Oakleigh, and it's hard to think about a player who has arrived here in Australia in NPL Victoria in recent memories made a bigger impact. Perhaps this man here, Alex Salmon, looking to get in behind, but Jordan Lampard getting across. Ball floated into the area, and Glazer nods it away. And Oakleigh with all the momentum at the moment, and, well, this has become a bit of a familiar tale for South Melbourne, Katie. We don't want to shoot fish in a barrel right now, but they are just at the moment, things just seem to be going from bad to worse in the league at the moment. As that cross into the area and Glazer clears it away. Lampard under pressure there from Sinclair, and it'll be a free kick there for South Melbourne. Just some stats here, Katie. South Melbourne's last win in the league 83 days ago. It was all the way back in the middle of February against Melbourne Knights. And right now, they haven't scored a league goal since March 31. So we've ticked over 5 minutes. They've gone almost just over 410 minutes without scoring a goal in the league. It has been a horror stretch for them.
Absolutely, and that's unfathomable to me. A squad that's loaded with talent. I know that they've had some injury concerns, but that just does not. I don't think that should be kind of an excuse, to be honest with you. I mean, I know they've had the big change with Esteban Quintas stepping down from the role, leaving the club, but there's no new manager bounce. So to me, that's even more concerning. When you parlay in with those numbers, I just wonder, when does this turn around? How does this turn around? Because I don't see how much Kohajic, who's taking over the role as of this week, I just wonder where the improvement comes from, to be honest. It's they're just caught flat-footed, they're reactive, but they're trying to make something happen here through Mikla. But again, Oakleigh just able to double back and just absorb whatever South are throwing at them in these early couple of minutes. Lots of football left to play, but if this is any indicator, this is going to be a hard night for South.
Well, they do get a corner opportunity here, as George Mells takes that corner quickly to Leach. Kills it into the area, but it doesn't beat the first Oakleigh defender, and it's nodded away. And Payne Andrews with quite an audacious attempt, and that's out for a goal kick. And it really has been such a tough season for South Melbourne. I mean, you know, for the last 3 years heading into this, they made 3 consecutive grand finals. They won the Doherty Cup last year, semi-finals of the Australia Cup as well. They were expected to be right up there again, and right now, if this result stays, they will be inside the relegation zone, as you mentioned off the top, Katie, alongside Melbourne Knights. Just unfathomable to think, of course, 3 teams going down. So them two and Port Melbourne would be going down to VPL 1 next year if the league was to end today and the ladder stays the same. Quite incredible to even think that would be a possibility.
Absolutely. All of which are proud clubs in their own right. A little bit of offers there through Charlie Leach just trying to get forward. But again, it's not as if it's an issue with South's recruiting, to be honest. George Mells, Charlie Leach, of course, quality performers. That parlaying that also in what they did have also with Nawal Bernardo, you expected them to pick up more or less where they left off from last season.
Absolutely.
And to be on the complete opposite side, on the other spectrum of that, it's just, I wonder how much a championship focus is taking. I know that's the big lurking shadow in all of this, right? And I know that's a much broader conversation, but that has to figure into the calculations. You have to think. It's just, there's boggles the mind at just what this run that South have been on, and at some point it's going to turn. Surely.
Well, they hope that maybe it could start here. Mikola with the free kick, and his effort doesn't beat the wall. Can Jankovic at least usher a corner? Well, if we're going to take the glass half full approach, Katie, despite their poor league form, they have won 2 games in the Doherty Cup. They did beat Eastern Lions and Bentley Greens in the last month, of course, progressing through to the 6th round of the competition where they played Pascoe Vale. So they've actually got quite a good run in this, playing a VPL 2 side up next. And then, of course, if they get past that, they'll play Dandy City or Brunswick City. But they have been able to get those results. It was a tough game midweek against Bentley, having to win that game in extra time. But they have to start getting points on the board. And that shadow that has been lurking over this team for a few months, they'd be hoping can start to be lifted today, at least with a positive performance, as Alex Salmon chesting that one down. Mel's looking to feed it through, and Hall just happy to usher that ball back to Nick Feely, and this ball over the top is Payne Andrews. Bit of a miss kick, and that time he just sends it long, but that's going to go bouncing all the way through to Nick Feely. The tale of the tape between these two teams, they've played 48 times, or 49 if you include the Community Shield earlier this year. South Melbourne 21 wins, 9 draws, Oakleigh 19. But all these games are always so tightly contested, always decided by less than a goal. The grand final, of course, 1-0. The Community Shield, 1-0. The Doherty Cup final decided on penalties. And the 2 league games as well were almost impossible to split. So history says that these games should be tight. But the way that South Melbourne have been playing, it seems far from that, as Payne Andrews with a very audacious attempt and almost catching Nick Feely off his line. I think a few people in the grandstand over there just hoping that maybe Feely stepped over the goal line.
It brought down the rain, that one, didn't it?
Yeah.
That was hooked up and high and long. Feely did well. That was a tricky one to catch. I think he remained over the line, much to the chagrin of the South fans in the stands. But again, I like this response from South Melbourne, though, to be honest. They've picked up, it's almost sparked them into life a little bit. Let's see what they can make of it. I think the work rate is most definitely there, so that's a positive sense, if I can say anything. Of course, they're coming off that win against Bentley. That was a tricky tie in and of itself.
Absolutely.
Bentley second in VPL 1 as it stands right now. So, we might as well be seeing them back here next year. So, again, couldn't take that one for granted. Good response here down the left now, though.
Here's Pope. Does he keep it alive? No, he doesn't. It's out for a throw-in. You are right, Katie. They were down in that game at Kingston Heath as well, and Marko Jankovic popped up late to send it to extra time before Andrew Mezzaruni scored the winner. He's on the bench today, along with Cooper Halfpenny, Jonathan Bethulis, Campbell Dovison, Samuel Franco, and Cooper Head, the youngster from the under-23, is getting his opportunity. So a lot of youngsters getting their chance, and I guess when there are absentees, when there are injuries, it breeds opportunity if you're looking at it from that perspective. Some of those under-23s that get a chance now with all these players missing, and at this stage, what have they got to lose? It's an exciting chance if one of these players could potentially grab the opportunity should it come. Yeah,
absolutely. You look at the team sheet, you look at all the subs list anyway, and there's not a lot there that stands out, but you can very easily make a name, right?
Absolutely.
Cooper Head, you mentioned. The South have done themselves that favour in the sense that they have gone to their youth team, that they've had a good youth program for some number of years now. Maybe tonight we start to see the rewards of that. Who knows? Because the thing with the youth side is they're very much untainted. They're very ready, and they're hungry to prove an opportunity here. Kasumovic might put paid to that, though. He's on the end of this.
Here comes Kasumovic looking to cut inside, but just couldn't get the ball out from underneath him and completely miskicked it. And it's a free kick going to South Melbourne. But you are right, Katie. It's an exciting opportunity, and Sinisa Kohadzic does have experience in the youth team sector. He's an under-23s championship winning coach with South Melbourne, so he understands the system. He's a former technical director here, of course, as well. He's spent time, I think currently as well, with the Philippines women's national team too, working alongside Mark Torcazo, and he's worked with Alamein and Ballarat, so he has over 20 years of experience. He's no slouch, Sinisa Kohadzic. He's coming in with plenty of runs on the board, perhaps not at senior level in NPL Victoria, but all around in terms of the women's game and also in youth team football as well.
Yeah, and at the same time as well, he's someone who knows the club. So if there's anyone who probably stood out in terms of replacement for Esteban Quintas, he was that safe pair of hands, and that's what I think South need. It's not, they can't really reverse course now by just bringing well, for lack of a better term, an outsider to take the reins. And I even recall Sinisa Kohajis' reign at Ashburton in the old WPL days, and again, a fantastic forward-thinking kind of coach. So, again, I wonder what his approach is going to be. I can't see too much changing. I mean, tactically, there's not a lot that he can do, I think, in the interim without more time on the training pitch with this squad. But I like the intent, and I like the decision from South Melbourne to do this.
Well, if you read in that press release, Katie, I mean, the one thing that stood out for me was he's going to bring attacking football to the table. So he's going to leave nothing to chance. And just was watching in that moment there, the second that Oakleigh had the ball for a second too long, he's immediately up off the bench. He's clapping, get up, press. So maybe just a sign of Kohadzic ball, if we want to term it anything. So maybe something to keep an eye on in the weeks ahead, of course, as the caretaker boss through till the end of the regular season. It's Yankovic fouled, and that's a really strong challenge. And the South Melbourne fans in the grandstand not happy at all. And we'll see what Lockie Keevers decides here, because you do think that a car will be coming out here, and
we'll try to take another look at that just on the replay there. Lockie Keevers is trying to restore a little bit of calm here. And that's a heavy challenge.
Was that Sinclair with that challenge?
I believe it was. We'll just give that another look.
So, let's see. He's having
came from behind.
It's a red card. And it's Alex Salmon. Alex Salmon has been sent off. Well, you are right, Katie. That was a really, really strong challenge. And you heard the reaction in the grandstand as well. And well, is this perhaps the avenue for Hellas to get themselves back into this game? They will have the numerical advantage now, but that is and you get the South Melbourne fans giving it to Alex Salmon as he walks down the tunnel. And that's a big loss for Oakleigh. Their main man up top, sent off.
Reckless as it gets. I think there was no need for that challenge from Alex Salmon there. Barreled, just came in barreling into Yankovic from behind. It was always going to result, I think, in one way. Just what Lockie Key was able to restore calm there and just really reaffirming his decision. Can't have too many complaints, can Alex Salmon there. Pierce Waring and Adam Duratovic, of course, his attacking options for Chris Taylor off the bench, but this might be a circuit breaker for South.
Well, they got to use this as a bit of fuel right now. They do have the numerical advantage, Katie, and the crowd is starting to get involved. That's something they certainly need. These fans have not had much to cheer about this year. So, Alex Salmon sent off. Oakleigh in the lead, courtesy of that Joe Guest goal, but perhaps their journey to 3 points has gotten a little bit more difficult now. We'll see how South Melbourne respond to this, because they have a window of opportunity here as Inglese with a long diagonal ball, and is nowhere near Mikola, and Feely is able to just sit on that one and slow things down just a moment. But that's a big loss for Oakleigh. Alex Salmon, a player, of course, who has scored 5 goals this season, one of the most prolific strikers we have seen here in NPL Victoria for quite some time, and well, I'm not too sure. They need to get confirmation of how the suspensions do work, but they do play in the Cup on Wednesday against Bulleen. I'm not too sure if they serve the suspensions in the Cup.
I don't believe so. But we'll have some confirmation on that for you. We'll just look into that. But Alex Salmon, you mentioned, even through his gully days, an absolute phenomenal goal scorer. So that's a big drop in the firepower for Oakleigh here. There's lots going to fall on Guest, especially now, holds on to that ball really well.
Here's Sinclair looking to play it along the deck, and it's cleared away. Well, if he is to miss their next league fixture, they play Avondale next away. So certainly a big out for Oakleigh, but they've got to get through today. They've got to survive for another 70-plus minutes with this 1-0 lead, or try and build on it with one less player. Simovic. It's out of bounds there for a throw-in. So as you mentioned, Katie, on the bench, Pierce Waring and Adam Duratovic, two of those names that do stand out that perhaps we might see at some point in this game, along with Ajak Dayu, Matthew Dench, Harry Arneson, and backup goalkeeper Lockie Hart.
They've settled into more of a 4-3-2 formation in light of that. Kasumovic going into a little bit more central role, partner and guest up top. Of course, Sinclair, Strong and McGill anchoring that midfield too.
Here's Kasumovic going for the near post attempt, and Lopez getting down to his right, and almost a calamity at the back there. And, well, Javi Lopez went for the throw, and he went straight into the back of Marko Jankovic's head. So play will stop for just a second here so Marko Jankovic can require treatment. But that was almost a horror moment at the back there for South Melbourne.
Catching friendly fire as well as opposition fire is poor Marko Jankovic there.
Well, he's been in the wars in the early 20 minutes or so of this contest. And well, South Melbourne can just have a breather for a second, as can Marko. But certainly they're not something that we want to be seeing whatsoever there. Hopefully Marko Jankovic is all good and able to continue after that bit of friendly fire. So, in case you missed it, the Oakleigh Cannons taking the lead through Joe Guest. It was Javi Lopez who saved the penalty. Went straight back to Guest, who buried on the rebound. And then moments later, Alex Salmon sent off for Oakleigh. So, despite their lead, they are down to 10.
And we know how much these kind of delays can shape games and really can turn the momentum. South would be hoping that this is a circuit breaker, if you will, but so often falling behind the 10 men becomes almost like a mental game.
Absolutely.
So sometimes it can either galvanise the team playing with 10, or it could just overwhelm.
Well, the cliche you sometimes hear is it's actually harder to play against 10, because one thing we do know that we could probably expect is Oakleigh are going to go a little bit more defensive now.
Yeah, and you expect in that defensive half, Jordan Hall, obviously the jewel in that defensive crown there, so he can really... I think Chris Taylor teams are always very solid defensively, and I don't see any change from that here in Oakleigh. They're going to need to take risks for South to get on top here. They're going to need to take risks. That means they're going to need to be quicker in possession. They're going to need to free up George Mellis a little bit more. I know Rob Harding, great pressing type of player, insane work rate, but Max Mikula, of course, what he brings, that skill level that he brings, so much is going to fall on them. I feel like that's a creative fulcrum, if you will, if South are going to get this done. They're going to have to really push Oakleigh. They're just going to need to keep that pressure, start to press up the field a bit more. Don't retreat, don't go into that mid block as they so often, that mid to low block as they so often have done. Throw caution to the wind. They've talked about attacking football this week. I think balance is what they need. It's not all one way. It has to be that blend of attack and defence that wins you leagues here in the NPL Victoria. Another collision, so just this physical nature of this game just really starting to pick up as well.
No love lost between these two teams as Cam McGill goes to ground holding his head. And you are right, Katie. I mean, the fascinating thing is when we have seen this matchup in years gone by, or particularly last year, you think towards the end of last season when you had Harry Sawyer going head-to-head with Hall and Tratt, and it was just three behemoths going head-to-head, just three players with plenty of size, threw their body around. It's a very different prospect with Rob Harding, who's a much smaller player, he's a lot quicker. So South aren't going to win. Not many strikers are going to win the physical battle against Hall and Tratt, so they're going to have to potentially tinker things a little bit and try play perhaps a lot more on the deck, and as you mentioned, Katie, perhaps pressing up high and trying to cause turnovers high up the field. So we'll see how they respond. And Cam McGill, all good to continue. So good news there for the Cannons.
Pressing so often, invites a lot of risk on your defensive half. You have to be ready to flip the switch and run back where needed, but also the problem I think that South have coming into this is there hasn't been a lot of time on the training pitch. They've had those midweek cup fixtures to deal with, so it's not as easy, I think, as them flipping that kind of switch, which is what's against them, which is a factor against them here tonight. It's tough. It's tough.
It's absolutely tough, yeah.
But also, if they are nimble, if they are fluid, and there's not one big centrepiece, we know the loss of Harry Sawyer, South still feel that. We know, I think we know that's the case, but there's also, it can make you hard to defend against by being by being a bit more nimble, by being a bit more fluid, as Mikola's trying to manufacture something down the left, trying to link up with his teammates there. Can't quite find the outlet, though. Can't quite find the opening. They can't be disheartened by that. They have to continue.
Yep. And that's exactly right, Katie. I mean, within 24 hours of the announcement that Sinisa Kwadžić was the caretaker coach, I mean, they were playing against Bentley Green. So it was a very quick turnaround. I mean, maybe he had some time before that. Maybe they knew. But at the same time, they played on Saturday when Lee Manopoulos was still interim coach with Tyson Holmes. So I guess we might not see the philosophy that Sinisa wants to put into play straight away, as Mel's in towards Painter Andrews, calls for a handball, but they do get a corner to the home side. Sun's starting to set here at Lakeside Stadium. Picturesque views out here on the lake. Max Mikola slowly making his way over to take this corner. Mikola whipped into the back post. It's not a bad ball in. It's back across the face. Hampson couldn't clear it. Jankovic going for goal, but it's blocked. And it's cleared away. Good little passage here from South Melbourne, though. And, well, you can expect where this one's going. If you're just tuning in for the first time to a South Melbourne game, this is going straight in the mix of Max Mikola, who has made a name for himself for not just his brilliant work on the field, it's his brilliant work in these positions, a long throw specialist. It's a real weapon under former coach Esteban Quintas, but he perhaps a bit of a trick play. Played it short there to Leach. The cross is deflected and it's out for a corner. Well, I don't mind it, you know, perhaps just saying to the Oakleigh players, yep, you get in the area, we're going to play it short, we're going to fool you guys a little bit.
Absolutely, and why not? You know, he has all the tricks in his locker as Max Mikola, but that Esteban Quintas effect clearly lives on. We all know that long throw ball, that long ball. Corner to come now.
Mel's into the area, nodded away by Strong. Good follow up there by Campbell Strong, looking to get things moving. Mikola getting back and putting it out for a throw in.
Arguably South's best spell of the game, just locking the ball into their half for the first time really this game for an extended period of time. That's what they need to continue. I know that the transition game of Oakleigh reaps so much rewards and is still a threat in its own right, but that's the risk that we've talked about. Really excellent work there by Guest being the sole pressing midfielder there on that last line. Brilliant work by him, just hassling the defenders, just sheer work rate still. The goal scorer, of course, of that missed penalty, slamming home that rebound, he's still going to be a threat. That just shows you. But again, risk is the name of the game for South here. Well,
he's that sort of player that can just create something out of nothing, and you can't give him an inch. He's one of the most deadly players in and around goal, whether he's teeing up a teammate or whether he's having a go himself. His partner in crime, though, Alex Salmon, has been sent off. So see how Sarka Sumovic fills in as that number 9. He did start the season as Oakleigh's starting striker with Salmon coming back from injury. So we have seen it, but not his natural role. More suited to playing out wide is the former Adelaide United attacker, as here's Mel's playing it over the top. That's not a bad ball in behind, and it's denied Rob Harding by Nick Feely. And that was the chance there for South Melbourne. It was a good ball by George Mells, and that's what he can do when he gets on the ball in those areas.
100%. George Mells, how often has he had that level of space, and how often has he had the chance to play that ball forward through a central attacking area? That's huge for South Melbourne. That's a great indicator. That's exactly the role you want him playing. He's your creative. He is your midfield link. He is the player that is linking defence with attack. He has not done nearly enough of that for various reasons. Not all on him. That's a great indicator. And he did the same thing just a short while ago, just freeing up Painter Andrews down this right side on the overlap too. So getting on the ball, getting through, getting into decent areas and really starting to make an impact. That's exactly what he's here to do. On the ball once again now, though.
Well, The thing about George Mells this season, he's been in and out of the starting 11, which has been a bit of a peculiar thing. As the ball comes down towards Mikola, takes a deflection off the volley, and it's out for a corner. Another opportunity here for South Melbourne. This is a really positive spell here from the home side. Can they make the most of it here? Mel's going over to take the corner. Jankovic and Inglese up from the back as the ball comes into the near post. And Mikola was waiting, and Hampstead had to help her behind, and it's another corner. And with every opportunity, every ball into the box, the crowd's starting to get involved, trying to will South Melbourne over the line and get themselves that all-important equaliser. As Mikola slowly makes his way over to take this corner.
This will be their 5th corner of the evening too.
Closing in on half an hour played. Mikola whips it into the area, and it's nodded away by Tratt. Good touch there by Leach. Lampard. Not a bad cross into the area, looking for Jankovic. Mikola at the back post! And he puts it wide. He was brought to ground, and well, there's some afters here between Cam McGilp and Marko Jankovic, and a few of the other players from both sides getting involved. Well, Katie, I mean, Mikola did put it wide. That challenge was very late.
Now, ultimately, I don't condone violence, right? But at the same time, it's good to see that pulse in South Melbourne, that response just to continue to fight and fight for every inch. It's so nice to know that these players still have that care in them. Do you know what I mean? But also, yeah, that's very much in penalty areas there, but not having any of it with Lockie Kivas is just going to allow a little bit of breathing space for Oakleigh now, which have been under the pump these last few minutes. They just need their game management is going to be so important in these next few moments.
Well, the other thing as well is his assistant had a good view of it right here as well. So I guess if there was something, that there would have been a conversation. Like if there really was something and Lockie Kivas couldn't see it, he may have been called over to have that conversation. So we'll give the referees the benefit of the doubt there. It was, in the end, Mikola just putting it wide. But this is a really good spell here from South Melbourne, starting to put Oakleigh under pressure. McGilp looking to play it through. Here's Kasumovic, but the flag is up. Still got plenty of quality going back the other way, do the Oakleigh Cannons. The other thing about today, if you did tune in to the broadcast just as we were starting, we did have a minute's silence before the game, which we'll get to in just a moment, as Pope is offside there, as South Melbourne paid tribute to the recent passings of Con Shomos and George Karantonis. So of course, had the minute's silence, and as well the serenade from the trumpet as well. But South Melbourne at the moment, they're playing with a bit of gusto at the moment. I really like what you mentioned, Katie, about the fact that, you know, after that foul, Marko Jankovic was getting in their faces and showing a bit. It shows that they care about this. This matters to them. This sort of game, it's, you know, they lost the grand final against these guys last year, you know. It would still hurt for these guys. Yeah, absolutely. As professionals and personally, they would take that on board. And, you know, I think footballers particularly have long memories. And of course, the history to that, and every story of both of these sides' jumpers, for Christ's sake. This is something that matters. This is something that should matter if you're going to represent these clubs. So there's a pulse. So it tells me that they're responding pretty well to the adversity. They might be able to make something here. Leach knocks it down. Payne Andrews just couldn't bring it under control. And it's out for a throw-in. Conversely, this is a big game for Oakleigh, because if you look at the results in and around them in that sort of top four at the moment, we're starting to see some of those teams get a bit of separation, with Green Gully beating Avondale 5-2 on Friday night, which no one saw coming. Heidelberg beating Port Melbourne, and of course Dandy Thunder beating Preston yesterday. This is a big game for Oakleigh if they want to stay right in the mix for the top two, and we all know how important the top two is in terms of getting the week off, guaranteed home semi-final as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So a win tonight gets them 3 points off the top against Heidelberg United with half a season left to play. So on 3 points on the road, I think, is massive in the league this season, and I think even more so here and now. So, yeah, they know what's on the line. They've come into this knowing what's on the line. They know it's a rivalry game. They know they would come into this, and it's probably the benefit of playing last in the league, right? So you know how the permutations shake out.
Yeah.
So they've done the math. Right?
Absolutely, and I mean, coming into a game against Avondale next Saturday, that's shaping up as a titanic contest, considering, Avondale's recent dip in form. I mean, 1 win, 1 loss over the last little bit. They beat South 4-0, but as we mentioned, a 5-2 loss away to Green Gully on Friday night, which no one saw coming.
Of course, and not to look too far ahead, but also Heidelberg United hosting Melbourne Knights on Friday night, so we expect them to maintain that charge, and you expect them still to put that pressure on the top spot and continue to set the tone there. So no room for error.
Yeah,
not at all at the top.
It's a good ball into the area, and Harding was making the run, but Feely collects. I guess the one thing that would give Oakleigh confidence is it's quite remarkable to think that the 2 championships they've won the last couple of years, they've done it from outside the top 2. They've had to go the long way. They finished 3rd in both of those years, and they went on the road and they got the job done in the semi-finals and then won the grand final. So for them, they just back themselves when it gets to finals time that it doesn't matter who they play, where they play. It's just water off a duck's back for them.
Yeah, insane kind of mentality, right? For them, I think we can't discount strength of schedule and the level of competition you face in getting there. Look, at some point you're going to have to face the best. You're going to have to face all the contenders if you are going to do it on that last day of the league. So, yeah, this is a team that's well drilled, and that's leaders on every line, experience on every line, and they get the recruitment right nearly every year. And this
Absolutely.
Is why they're in the position that they are now.
They'll be looking to bounce back after that loss against Heidelberg. In fact, all 3 of their losses have been at home this year, which is quite remarkable. Haven't lost away from home, but all 3 of their losses against Avondale, St Albans and Heidelberg, all at Jack Edwards Reserve, which is quite surprising, to say the least, considering how good they've been at home for such a long time as well.
Chris Taylor's sides have traditionally, they've been at times slow starters to the league and then really hitting their straps, but again, I think in recent times it's been a case of, well, we know the level of competition's gone up, and as such, they step up in their levels as well. So,
a dangerous moment here as Lopez just collects before Joe Guest can get on the end of that one.
So again, just that present is still there for South Melbourne, but they don't look phased, which is important as well. But as we will mention, the level of competition keeps on improving, and as such, Chris Taylor, I think, has adapted to that. There's no room for error. You have to get your preseason right. You have to get your recruitment right. You have to come into the season absolutely spot on, and if you don't, there's cost to that. And I think and that's may impact the South in some way, shape, or form. Mel's again just looking forward with the ball, overhit that one, looking for Pope on the overlap. I like the fact that the South fullbacks are still attempting to get forward. Jordan Lampard using his pace as an absolute weapon. Jack Painter-Andrews very attacking in his approach as well. So I know we talked about attacking threats, or the top 3 attacking threats. They still have the ability defensively as well to manufacture an own attacking threat as well. Even Marko Jankovic has the ability to play that sweeper role. So some fantastic signs, I think, still for South.
Good ball in behind. Sinclair was waiting, and Painter-Andrews with a very important challenge. Kingsley Sinclair just ghosting in behind, but Jack Painter-Andrews getting across and putting that ball out for a corner. Just having a look, Joe Guest wanted that ball there from the ball boy here on this near side here, but the ball boy said, go get your own and get the ball from behind the goals instead. In the end, it did come from behind the goals instead of the one right here, as you might be able to see right in your foreground here. Bit of shenanigans here from the South Melbourne ball kids as Tratt's header bounces through to Harvey Lopez. Just adds to the home atmosphere, having to come here on the road. Never easy. The ball kids, they know the assignment.
They understood the mission quite clean and clear there. Home advantage.
Absolutely.
Writ large there. We love it. Monsieur, we hear every little thing here in NPL Victoria. That's the joy of these boutique kind of grounds. You hear every little thing, positive and negative, if you will.
Absolutely. As do those effects marks that we've got here as well. And sometimes there's some quite colourful language, let me tell you that. As Charlie Leach goes centrally here to Evans. Marko Jankovic looking to slowly lumber up from defence and chips it over the top. Lampard making the run. Ball into the area, goes to ground. And it's a free kick right on the edge of the area. Jordan Lampard clattered there. And it will be, by the looks of it, and there'll be a yellow card as well brandished for this one. Perhaps not. Sarka Sumovic with that challenge there on Jordan Lampard. Sorry, it was Max Mikla. My apologies there. So, a free kick here in a really dangerous position.
Have to mention as well Marko Jankovic, the key there. Morgan Evans and Lucas Ingles are dropping back, freeing up Marko Jankovic to carry the ball into midfield and force the issue. Lampard getting forward as well. I like that unity. I like that structure in attack starting to form under Kohartic now.
Keep an eye on Jankovic at that back post along with Lucas Ingles. And Nicola's cross is cleared away by Guest. Mel's setting it up there for Painter Andrews. Won the duel there and calls for a handball. Go unanswered. Inglese couldn't chase it down. Well played there by Sinclair. And Sinclair's off to the races. Skips past another man, but Jack Pope getting across and did well. Here's Jankovic. Painter Andrews just resetting and slowing things down here for South Melbourne. Here's Lampard. Just taking their time to play through this very deep block here from the visitors Oakleigh. Painter Andrews in the crossing position here, and it's not a bad ball in. But again, Nick Feely able to come off his line and collect. And danger averted there for the Oakleigh defence. Closing in on half-time, just under 5 minutes of regulation time. But you do get a sense there will be a bit of added time for that challenge from Alex Salmon that led to the red card. And we saw Marko Jankovic as well require treatment after that bit of friendly fire with Javi Lopez. So, and of course there was the penalty too. So we might get a good chunk to end this first half here at Lakeside Stadium. Evans. Jankovic stepping up from defence. Here's Leach.
2 banks to 4 here. Asad Kasimovic is dropping back in that defensive shape. Joe Guest being the sole man up top there, so very much understanding that they want to nurture this lead going into half-time.
Here's Mel's. Got into a very dangerous position, but was pickpocketed. Winning it back was Mikola, but there was a free kick in the lead-up. And Oakleigh can breathe a sigh of relief. Of course, this South Melbourne team, when you look at the absentees, you can't help but look at that attack that is really, beyond Harry Sawyer departing from MacArthur FC, Noel Bernardo being injured, who's such an important player for them as well. It's now Sinclair looking to play it in towards Guest, and Evans clears it away. Harding. Chase is on here. Connor Hampson happy just to see it out, but as well Andy Brennan missing today, and don't forget Jake Marshall in defence and Ross Archibald there. A lot of experience, a lot of players that have been there and done that in NPL Victoria, all missing. And of course the player they brought in to replace Harry Sawyer, Gustav Moller as well, departing the club. This is an attack that's, really at the moment they're just trying to get anything together, just trying to make something work at least until the window reopens.
And even then, the window reopening might be a bit too late for them. If in all things considered, I know that they still have a pulse even for finals calculation. There is that glut ahead of them. There's that competition still ahead of them. So I wonder if the transfer window is just not going to allow them to really get someone in to settle in, to be honest. So, and you mentioned those names. Their first choice players.
Yep, they're some of the first names on the team sheet.
100%. How many, more than handy, interventions has Andy Brennan made on games? How many key goals, how many key assists, and the work rate that he brings as well on and off the ball, that's a huge add as well. And very much someone who's a stalwart at this level.
Absolutely. And the other thing to add to that as well, Katie, is another big collision there with Stratton and Leach. Leach just holding his head there, but the one thing is that on-field leadership as well. Almost having, at this point as well, when they've had so much turmoil on the touchline and the changes of coaches, having almost another on-field coach. We hear it a lot in, sorry to bring no Sharon rule here, but you hear it a lot when they talk a lot about with the over 30s at Collingwood, where they talk about someone like a Scott Pendlebury. He's old, but he can direct things out on the field. And someone like Andy Brennan and Jake Marshall and Noel Bernardo have been there and done that. Ross Archibald, can't discount that out in the field, and you lose a lot of that experience not having them there to just guide players in key moments. So it's something that certainly they have missed at different portions, but particularly today as well, not having Marshall and Brennan out there.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that even for culture and that the role that they play in setting the tone around the club, and just how almost like the level of leadership and know-how and nous that they bring as well. It is almost having like another coach out there. It really is, and that's where it has to come from. Sometimes coaches on the touchline can't impact the games almost in the way that they want to. Is a little bit of afters here.
Again, Cam McGilp in the middle of it. And I'll tell you what, Lockie Kivas has been very busy in his first 45 here at Lakeside. It looks like we're going to get 4 minutes of added time.
The fourth official has indicated there will be a minimum of 4 minutes of added time.
A little bit of a jump scare there. Thank you very much, Neil Simons, for the ground announcer today, doing great work up there in the Lakeside media box, but he just gave us a bit of a scare here.
That is a loud PA system.
Absolutely.
It's nice to see it's working in full effect, and we hear every bit of it. And even now, 4 minutes of added time, just you see Oakleigh just trying to still to settle and still just trying to work their lead and just trying to not rest on their laurels so much as try to, again, play each contest on its merits. It's not pretty stuff from them, but they're managing this game quite well, given what South have been throwing at them throughout a lot of this half, to be honest with you.
Jankovic winning the header. Strong challenge there from Evans. Leach looking to knock it forward. Boyce just with a first-time clearance straight through to Javi Lopez. And South perhaps manufacture one more chance before we get into the half-time sheds. Oakleigh have to hold firm for another 4 minutes, and they want to retain that one-goal advantage. They're still, regardless if they're able to hold firm, they've got a big mountain to climb in the second half. South Melbourne have been putting all sorts of pressure on them. Here's Jankovic. Inglese stepping forward from defence. Diagonal ball out towards the run of Mikola. There's Lampard in support. Mel's. Lovely dinked ball over the top, and Trapp got an all-important intervention. Good touch there from Kasumovic, and he's off to the races. Isolated here against Jankovic and Inglese, and all the experience there of Marko Jankovic on show. Completely unfazed to win that ball back.
Elite level performer at this level. Brilliant work once again by him. Even as well, just continuing to be an outlet and carrying the ball through midfield, attacking, defensive-wise, still one of the best going around in the league.
Mikola, ball into the area. Leach looking to make a challenge at the back post, but it's out for a goal kick. And been so impressed with Marko Jankovic today. He's really stepped up and led from the front here for South Melbourne. With all those players missing, we spoke about, he's someone who has a bucket load of experience. See Nick Feely in no rush to take this goal kick. If you did miss it, Joe Guest opening the scoring inside the opening 5 minutes for Oakleigh. His penalty was saved by Javi Lopez, but did well on the rebound to pop home his 10th of the season. But shortly after that, Alex Salmon sent off, meaning Oakleigh, with this one-goal lead, going to have to get this one done with only 10. Jankovic winning that header. Harding looking to play it through. It was always have to be something quite spectacular to get it through to Mikola. And again, Nick Feely just happy to sit on things for the time being. Good touch there from Leach. Pope looking to make the run in behind, but again, Jacob Tratt just unfazed. And Glazer under pressure here from Guest and calls for a handball. Do go rewarded in the end, and Lucas Inglazer did give away that penalty, but he has settled in nicely after that early scare. Player has played a lot of senior football over the last couple of years, another product of the South Melbourne youth pipeline here. Here he is looking to step forward from defence. Ball flicked on. It's not a bad ball in behind, but Connor Hampson did well before either Harding or Pope could get there. And Lockie Keevers blows for half-time here at Lakeside Stadium. It is the Oakleigh Cannons leading 1-0 here against South Melbourne. Joe Guest with the opening goal. His penalty was saved. He buried it on the rebound. But shortly after that, a flashpoint moment in the first 45 minutes with Alex Salmon sent off, meaning the reigning champions, a goal to the good, but perhaps right now with a bit of a mountain to climb with only 10 players on the field. South Melbourne did a really good job at stemming the flow, creating a few opportunities of their own to put the Cannons under pressure, but their weight...
The screws, if you will, on Oakleigh's defence. They're going to need to keep doing that. I understand that it's going to be, they might be frustrating. They're going to have a wall to break down, but I think there's still room for them to get that equaliser to start with. That has to be the focus early on in that second half. That has to be the target, right? If they can bag one early on, this takes this game to another level. It makes it fascinating 45 minutes to come, makes it a fascinating dynamic. And yeah, we look forward to bringing it to you very shortly.
We'll be back in around 15 minutes time for the final 45 here from Lakeside Stadium to round out round 13 of NPL Victoria men's football. The score here is South Melbourne 0, the Oakleigh Cannons 1.
Coming on for South Melbourne FC, making his debut, number 40, Cooper Head.
Welcome back to Lakeside Stadium here for this round 13 NPL Men's Victoria fixture. The Oakleigh Cannons leading 1-0 as we get things underway here against South Melbourne. South Melbourne going from right to left in their traditional home blue kits, and Oakleigh from left to right. There has been one change at the break, a debut for Cooper Head, who comes on for Lucas Inglese. So thrown right into the fire for the second half here, Katie Lambeski. Cooper Head getting his opportunity here in a massive 45-minute spell here for South Melbourne.
I like it. It's a very much an attacking change made by the new coach, the new gaffer, and Seko Hazic. So I guess it is definitely an attacking one. I feel like it's going to mean that Hall and Tratt, that centre-back pairing, might have a different task on their hands. It's more firepower loading up here for South. I like it. Yeah. All in all, I like the fresh impetus it gives and the fresh legs it gives. All-out attack. Let's go for it.
Well, Cooper Head just did a quick glance of his statistics before the game. 12 appearances and 2 goals for the under-23s already this year. But getting his chance tonight with Jake Marshall missing and Noel Bernardo missing and Andy Brennan and Ross Archibald, so many key players out, and a chance here for the youngster. And if you did miss it, and you're wondering why there's only 10 players on for the Oakleigh Cannons, who do lead courtesy of that Joe Guest goal, is Alex Salmon was sent off early in the piece. A red card shortly after that Joe Guest goal. A very strong challenge on Marko Jankovic, which led to that red card, as Oakleigh looking to build forward. They haven't given up the ghost of a second, and that's a challenge inside the area, and it's another penalty here for Oakleigh. Morgan Evans bringing down Joe Guest inside the box. And after all the good work from South Melbourne to start to get a little bit of a foothold in this contest and get the ascendancy after that red card, they've given away their second spot kick of the game.
They went long, they went direct. Joe Guest forcing a very rash challenge that didn't really need to be made. I can't help but feel that he was well ahead of him, but I guess he had covering defenders across him to intercept there. And that just kind of sums it up for South this season. Any time they try to get a foothold forward, they're brought immediately back, and Guest will look to bring the double up right here and now.
Well, Guest had his penalty saved, and he did well on the rebound to put home his 10th of the season. Can he make it 11? Joe Guest buries it into the back of the net. The Englishman strikes again. And the 10-man Oakleigh Cannons double their lead against South Melbourne. Joe Guest goes clear at the top of the Golden Boot race as well. He's having some season. And South Melbourne, they have a massive mountain to climb, and that familiar feeling just setting in here at Lakeside Stadium. But the Oakleigh Cannons, 2 goals to the good. Joe Guest, 2 goals to the good as well.
Well done there by Joe Guest. Made no mistake about it. Harvey Lopez stuck rooted to the spot. And you could just feel the atmosphere change now here at Lakeside. That fans came into the second half thinking we might be on here. And that just leaves the air out of the stadium just a little bit more. Unfortunately, just goes to tell the story of South's season, just particularly unfortunate, just rash decisions in key moments there. It was a challenge that did not need to be made, and one that may well prove an undoing here tonight. Again, they're just going to try to reassert themselves and try to just go forward as quick as possible, but it's all in Oakleigh's hands now.
That's just a sucker punch for South Melbourne. You know, they've come into this game 83 days without a win in the league. They've ticked over now, if my maths is correct, over 450 minutes in the league without a goal. They were doing so well to start and put Oakleigh under pressure towards the end of that first half. And after Alex Salmon's red card, you really felt the momentum starting to shift, and to concede a goal so quickly out of the gates. And again, it feels like deja vu from that first half, you know, straight out of the gates. Oakleigh winning that penalty and scoring, and yet again here in the second half. And Joe Guest doing what he does best. He's having some season, perhaps, I mean, it's such a high bar, but perhaps his best season yet here in Victorian football, which is just quite incredible as Mel's pass is intercepted. Wins it back here. Still plenty of time, though, for South. Can they respond quickly? Lampard out to Mikola.
To also do this without Joe Knowles as well. Out of the big out for this squad, that is for sure. I mean, they're flawless right now.
Absolutely.
They were met with a lot of pressure for that first half, but they just were able to absorb and keep South at bay. And now what they were looking for was that transition, was that sucker punch, and they found it. You know, just that overhand left, if you will, just to really wobble South and have them on the ropes too. It's tough.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned numbers. I'll run this one past you. 9 goals for this season in the league. By some distance, the least amount. The worst attack in the league. Knights and Port Melbourne have scored more than, and who are below them have scored more than them. So
it's quite incredible. It's quite incredible to think about it, you know, like that South Melbourne having the least amount of goals in the league this season.
It's grim. There's no other way to paint that statistic up as anything other than a disappointment and not fitting of a club of this stature, to be honest, or a squad of this stature, to be honest. We know the difficulties, of course, but a South side should be able to manufacture more than 9 goals through the halfway mark of the season. No two ways about it.
Well, this is supposed to be, you know, this was an exciting year for South Melbourne. Of course, they're in the Australian Championship, which kicks off at the end of this season. You know, they've already had their first game locked in against Sydney Olympic. You know, this was an exciting time to be part of this football club and, you know, to get behind them. And unfortunately right now, the form on the field in the league just hasn't been anywhere near what we have become accustomed to from South Melbourne over many, many years. But they'll be hoping to flip the script in these last 40-odd minutes, and they still do have that numerical advantage as Mikola getting in behind, and again the flag is up. And the words of encouragement coming from that Oakleigh defence. I tell you what, if you're Chris Taylor and the Oakleigh technical staff at the moment, you couldn't have drawn up a better start to this second half. You know, you're up by a goal, you're a man down, you're up against it, and to score in the opening minutes and just wrestle back the control. Perhaps maybe, you know, not so much with obviously having that one less player on the field, but just the momentum, the feeling, you know, take the belief away from South Melbourne that is already so limited because they just haven't had much to really build off this season.
No, not at all. And they're just ruthless in not allowing anything past them from South Melbourne. They've just were able to remain calm, remain level, and just were able to really manufacture opportunities, like going the other way. It did not take much. It doesn't take much to forge that opening. It just goes to show you how well structured and how well set up they are across the board, like attacking through attack, through midfield, through defence, winners on every line.
Absolutely.
And we're seeing that in full effect here tonight. I know we spoke of the importance of South getting the jump start in the second half and finding an early equaliser. Oakleigh have just paid to that in a really ruthless way right here and now.
Well, the best way to sum it up is, Katie, there's a reason why this team is you spoke about the word winners on every line. They have backed it up with silverware as well. This is a team that know how to get the job done, and they have shown it here. They have managed this second half so well. Well, so far, so well.
Yep. But
we'll see how South Melbourne respond. They do have a throw-in opportunity here. Haven't gone to the long throw yet at all tonight, which feels peculiar, to say the least, but a crossing opportunity here for Painter Andrews. Into twist and turn, and Pope sending it into the area. Harding contesting there against Feely. It's not cleared. Leach won the header, but it's nodded away there by Strong. Well won back there by Jack Pope. Here's Evans to Yankovic. Oh, and not on the same wavelength was Painter Andrews, and it's out for a throw-in. And I guess that really just sums things up at the moment for South Melbourne.
Yeah, disjointed, I think, is the best word we could probably use there. Just not sure where to look, I think, at the moment here at South.
Hampson wins the throw-in. I mean, you look at that bench, so many young players for South Melbourne that they might have to turn to if they want to try and wrestle back some control. They do have the likes of Andrew Mezzaruni and Campbell Doverson. Of course, Mezzaruni did score in midweek in the Doherty Cup, as Pope wins the free kick. Can you get things moving quickly? Here's Lampard to Mikola. Driving forward here, the Queenslander, looking to make something happen. But again, white shirts everywhere, just denying Mikola any sort of space. Leach. Lampard. Mikola just waiting for his options. Not a bad ball through. Mel's along the deck! And it's tapped home! South Melbourne do get one back. It's 2-1. It's Rob Harding who finally ends their goal drought in the league. It was well worked down that left-hand side through Mikola and Mel's. And Rob Harding just ghosted through. Well, not really at all. He was unguarded inside the 6-yard box and he's able to tap home. And it's game on again here at Lakeside.
Full credit to George Mellis in that instance, right? Breaking into the box, really coming off the line, and just really, that late run is so hard to mark, and I think he proved that into really devastating effect there. Jordan Lampard, really smart, tucking in centrally, just opening up that space for Mikola to have that, I guess, have a bit more time and a bit more space on his side down the left to break that pass in for Mel's. Really well-worked team goal, and that brings up number 10 of the season. We've talked about that not nearly being enough, but that's a good start, a starting point in this new era that they're under. And a renewed sense of hope breaking out here at Lakeside.
Well, finally, after over 450 minutes, almost 460, might even be a touch over, they have found the back of the net in the league. Their last goal coming against Dandy City all the way back here on March 31. Now the chase is on. Can they get some points on the board? As a Oakleigh player will require some treatment on that far side. Just remind us, Katie, I mean, a win for South Melbourne takes them out of the relegation zone, but a draw?
A draw doesn't do them much good either, to be honest with you. And even when you consider they have Port Melbourne and Melbourne Knights over the coming weeks, so a draw gets them to 10. I'll tell you the Magic, courtesy of that 4-0 win against Melbourne Knights yesterday evening, they're on 11, so a draw does not do much for them. On its face right here and now.
Yeah.
I think maybe we look at this as a handy point to have come the end of the season, or whichever way you want to look at it, but I think in the here and now it doesn't do really much to get their season back on track.
As much as I do see, looking at that glass half full side of, yep, it's a point against Oakleigh, yep, it would be a gutsy comeback for them to come away with something from this game, but a win would just, it would be massive for them. Just the momentum and the belief that they would get off the back of that going into the second half of the season.
Well, approaching this somewhat optimistically, if they get themselves to a win tonight, brings them to 12 points. That is also 9 away from Preston Lions in 6th. So there's we mentioned not a lot of room to fail at the top. There's not a lot of room for error at the top. It's not so much the case from those final spots as well. So Preston Lions, of course, coming off a heavy defeat, of course, to Dandenong Thunder last night as well. So the permutations, we're starting to come to that point of the season where the best starts to separate, really.
And there's still 13 games to go. There's plenty of time. So one thing at a time, though. I mean, we won't look too far ahead into the crystal ball. I mean, South Melbourne still need to get something from this game. But if Oakleigh drop points here, though, conversely, it would mean they lose a bit of ground on the top 3 and they just get dragged a little bit back towards the likes of Hume City and Preston. Of course, 3rd and 4th do get a home elimination final, so still important, even if they don't get a top 2 spot. As here's Lampard. Leach driving forward. Playing it short to Pope. The 1-2. Leach just intercepted there by Strong, but it's won back by Pope. Pope going for goal. Takes a deflection. And Feely making the stop, and it did come off the head of Cam McGill, who will require some treatment after that effort. And Jack Pope, I'll tell you what, he's put in a tireless shift today.
A lot of work down those flanks, just covering back, trying to be an option in attack as well, just not, and again, keeping the importance there of just not having his team caught out on the other side. He's been fantastic in that level of work he's put in. Probably up there with Jankovic as well, if you think about it too. And I think that you're starting to see probably the start of a new kind of structure, a new kind of formation here at South. Bit by bit, you're just starting to see a new attacking kind of identity start to form a little bit here. They have had a lot of time on the training pitch to get that right. But again, these are probably green shoots, if you will, silver linings starting to come through at a really crucial time in the season, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, just a reminder to those at home, after tonight, we do tick into the second half of the season. This season has already flown, and the reverse fixtures all starting from next week when we see these teams playing their round one opponents yet again. Of course, Oakleigh on the road against Avondale, big game for them. They did lose that game back in round one, and South Melbourne at home against Port Melbourne. And they did beat Port Melbourne back in round one. Of course, they're bottom of the league and recently parted ways with head coach John Markovski. Still a bit of time before we get to there, and both teams hoping to leave it all out here tonight and come away with some all-important points. Mikola. Switching ball out there towards Head. His debut here for South Melbourne. What an opportunity here for the youngster, looking to play it short towards Leach, and it's turned over. And another free kick here. And Charlie Leach will go into the referee's notebook, a yellow card, and not ideal there for South Melbourne. You see Oakleigh at the moment, every time there's a foul, they're just taking a few extra seconds, perhaps a little bit of gamesmanship kicking in a little bit here for the Oakleigh Cannons with that numerical disadvantage.
Not quite time wasting, I would say, but it was more a case of just game management, just taking precious time out of the clock, knowing full well South are chasing this game and knowing full well what it means in the context of their season. Not to say it doesn't mean anything to Oakleigh, not by any stretch of the imagination, but they're managing this game exceptionally well still. Again, maybe gave Rob Harding too much space on that breakthrough goal for South, but I just think the way that they're handling it still leaves them in good stead to bring this one home.
So Cam McGill has been in the wars today, and his first start for Oakleigh in quite some time. In fact, he was out for over 2 months before last week and returned off the bench in that loss against Heidelberg. And he's such an important part of this Oakleigh team as part of that engine room. Forged such a great partnership with Ollie Kubalay for all those years, as Sinclair couldn't keep it alive, and it's out for a goal kick. No time wasted, though, from Javi Lopez, getting things moving quickly. Still no movement on either bench. One thing we do know about the Oakleigh Cannons, which always rings true, is CT loves to hold his guns and doesn't like to make too many changes, and changes early in the piece, let alone really at any point.
Backs in his starting 11, doesn't he?
Yep. Runs them ragged.
Absolutely gets a lot of mass in those legs, but also it's not to say he's not inflexible either. He can very much respond to a situation in game as well. So very much wily, very much been around these streets for a very long time, hasn't he? So again, someone who's brought a lot of success to this club, and someone who even brought a lot of success to South Melbourne as well. We can't forget.
Well, you think some of those defensive-minded players who they're probably going to look at, Matthew Dench, who can play at left back or left wing, who started every game before tonight, and Harry Arneson as well, who can slide in at midfield. Ajak Daviu, a centre-back. If they want someone who can provide a little bit of energy up front, because the tireless shift that those attackers have put in after Alex Salmon's red card, they do have Adam Doradovic and Pierce Waring as Javi Lopez. Bit of trickery and perhaps playing his teammates into a little bit of pressure here. Jankovic just having to clear it away. Trapp winning the header. Here comes Paynter Andrews. Goes to ground and wins the free kick, and Kingsley Sinclair receives a yellow card. No time wasted here from South Melbourne. And the good thing is, I mean, I guess for South is one thing that they're always doing is trying to get things moving quickly before Oakleigh can get into their shape and keep the game chaotic, because every time that the Cannons have got into their shape, that's when things have been really difficult for them.
Disrupt has to be the name of the game for them now. I know it looked very risky, it looked dicey there for that moment, but again, just Jankovic hooking it long, catching Oakleigh high up the pitch a little, so there's just that option still to catch them on the break. Lines are starting to open up between midfield and attack here, so it's just, I think that suits South. The more they can get this chaos game going.
Absolutely, and you think if they get an equaliser and if Oakleigh get a sense that they're going to start chasing 3 points, this game's going to open up even more. Lampard goes to ground, no free kick. Cleared away by Boyce. He'll be coming straight back through Marko Jankovic. Head back to Evans, who's slotted in at the heart of that defensive unit tonight. Mel's with a switching ball. Painter Andrews still going. And just couldn't chase it down, and it's out for a goal kick. And the Oakleigh players celebrating that like it's almost a goal or winning a corner. Tell you what, Katie, just keeping an eye on things behind Nick Feely's goals. The ball kids are practicing their best flips at the moment on the high jump podium as well over there. It's all happening out here at Lakeside.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely. So we'll take advantage of that while the setup is there, boys. Have at it.
Absolutely. Sure. 10 out of 10. Kids, you're doing a great job. Here's Lopez. Guess putting the pressure on young Cooperhead. Long ball from Painter Andrews. Tratt clears it away. Leach, well played, looking for Painter Andrews, but well defended again there by Hampson. Guest for the 1-2 with Sinclair, and it's out for another throw-in. So a good little patch here from the home side. Pope getting things moving quickly.
The quicker they move the ball is going to be key here. The more chances they get in catching Oakleigh out of their shape. They're playing between the lines now, which is really, I think, a red flag, if you will, for Oakleigh. Starting to break through here is Pope. That angle just not sitting right for him there, though.
Just couldn't keep it alive. Was Jack Pope. Just having a look, Sinisa Kahadzic deep in conversation with another one of his substitutes, so perhaps another change in the offing for South Melbourne. Cooperhead was their only change coming on for Lucas Inglese. And I think as well, Oakleigh are getting ready to make a change of their own as Chris Taylor's called in one of his substitutes. So perhaps a bit of movement on that far side as Jacob Tratt winning the header. Leach looking to play it through. Harding chasing it down, nodding towards goal, and Boyce getting back. And it's out for a goal kick, and another nervous moment for that Oakleigh defence. Robert Harding just buzzing around at the feed, and he's got a bit of confidence at the moment, the West Australian. But Brodie Boyce just perhaps waiting a second too long there.
Inviting a little bit of danger there. But he saw the angle pretty well, didn't he? He just saw that it was just a little bit off track. He was just able to hold the space, however dicey it might have looked there. I like the fact that he didn't blink. You know, he was able just to hold the space and just able to get the job done in the end. They've got to be careful of this sucker punch as well here, South again. I know they're putting a lot of pressure going on the other side. That might leave space for Oakleigh to attack, and we might see that here.
Good ball from Strong, finding Sinclair. Hampson, first time ball over the top, looking back for the New Zealander, but it's well defended there by Painter Andrews. Does well to bring it under his spell, and he wins a throw-in. So, good result there for South Melbourne, but we'll take a moment because we're getting ready for substitutions for both teams. And it looks like it's going to be Matthew Dench coming on here for Cam McGilp for the Oakleigh Cannons. And it looks like George Mells is going to make way as well.
Oakleigh Cannons coming off number 3, Connor Hampson, and coming on number 11, Adam Duratovic.
And there we go, Connor Hampson as well, making way for Adam Duratovic.
South Melbourne FC, coming off number 10, George Mells, coming on number 45, Sam Franco.
So Sam Franco, another one of the youngsters coming on here for George Mells, who set up the opportunity for Rob Harding's goal. Big shift from George Mells, getting a solid 70 minutes in the legs, but perhaps a little bit of tinkering here from the Oakleigh Cannons. Adam Duratovic leading the line and Matthew Dench filling in at left back. Of course, he started every game before tonight, but not in his place. And Adam Duratovic still looking for his first league goal for the Oakleigh Cannons since coming across from Melbourne Victory. Scored twice against Ringwood in the Cup, but looking to get off the mark here in the league. And Sam Franco has had an extended run of opportunities as of late for South Melbourne getting a chance here. Cool and calm in possession are the home side. Waiting their chance to penetrate and try and bring this game level. Yankovic. Leach. Good feet there from the number 88. Lampard. Back out wide. Here's Head. Evans. Lampard. Playing it through. Leach. Good challenge there from Brodie Boyce, getting across and, well, played there from Jack Pope to win it back, and just a tireless shift from the South Melbourne youngster. Evans, Yankovic, ball locked in South Melbourne's attacking half, in towards the back post, and it's nodded towards goal there from Pope. Easy pickings, though, for Nick Feely.
And still South doing, making a lot of the attacking track, if you will, making a lot of that attacking momentum here. I like the addition of Franco into the team, of course, just getting even an opportunity midweek in the Cup. Started that game as well. Miles, I thought, was quite good this evening. Just was really promising, I think, in the way that he was utilised tonight and the spaces that he was getting into tonight and some of the passes he was playing, of course, laying on that assist for Rob Harding. For that get back goal, I wonder if that was a mistake to take him off there, given how crucial he was to a lot of their chance creation there. But nevertheless, Franco, just to provide that fresh legs, I think that's going to be just as important here as managing the squad throughout that tough cup run as well.
George Mells did look like their most likely avenue, as you mentioned, Katie, to setting up an opportunity for that attack, but it's a big opportunity here for the youngster. Perhaps Mel's just labouring a little bit and didn't have 90 minutes in the legs. They just needed a bit of a freshen up in that attacking third. Here is Franco. Mikola floats it in. Lampard making the run. Boyce nods it down and it's cleared away. Not entirely though. Yankovic. Lovely touch through. Franco back into the box. Nodded away by Dench. But again, the ball lives in South Melbourne's attacking half. Mikola dropping very deep. Pope assessing his options. Out wide to Paynter Andrews. Does well to get towards the byline. Plays along the deck and he wins a corner. So another opportunity here for South Melbourne. Can they bring themselves level here? Mikola assuming responsibility of this corner on that far side. Mikola into the near post. Cleared away by Dench. Coming straight back here through Evans. Here's Lampard. This plays in the middle. It's not a bad ball in, and Paynter Andrews is waiting for it. Will be coming straight back, though. Seems like that's been a bit of the tale of the last 5 or so minutes. Oakleigh having to weather the storm here. Mikola. Franco. Here's Yankovic. looking to play it towards Lampard, and it's cleared away by Kasumovic. Lopez, good first touch to bring it under his spell. And here they go again. Jankovic. Mikola just waiting for his options, and Strong did well just holding his own. Mikola winning it back. Here's Franco. Dinks it over the top looking for Lampard. Kasumovic did well getting across, and it's out for another throw-in. So we haven't seen the long throw yet tonight. Is this the moment? Maybe not, because it looks like Jordan Lampard's going over to take it. A no long throw policy perhaps under Sinisa Kohadzic.
It can't be coincidence, right?
Yep.
Even then, Mikola just drifting more into central positions as well, not starting on those wing positions. So I'm liking just the changes of movement, just like the changes of position, just to try. I mean, I will myself use a footballing term, and spinning the magnets a little bit perhaps is what Kohadzic is looking to do here. Finding out exactly what he has at his disposal and finding out just what players have in their skill sets. I'm sure he's well accustomed to that, but just what they can be capable of and how he can, I guess, shape them even further, I think is just as important as an attribute in a coach. So it's an interesting, maybe subplot to come out of this game, that's for sure. Here's
Sinclair, winning it back here for Oakleigh, looking to play towards Doradovic, but Jankovic did well to chase it down under pressure there from the former Melbourne Victory youngster. It's been opportunities have been far and few between in this, or few and far between, sorry, in this second half, bar the two goals, really. Rob Harding having another chance, which was well defended by Brodie Boyce, but the ball has basically lived in South Melbourne's half as Mikola switching ball towards Painter Andrews. Good first touch. Plays it all the way back to Head. Mikola. Out wide to Leach. It's 10 or 9 white jerseys, really, ahead of South Melbourne at every given point. Just so hard to break down, have the cannons beam, but it was that moment of patience which actually opened things up for South Melbourne to hit the scoreboard. So not rushing things here. Evans getting quite busy here. Lampard. Again to Mikola. Well defended there by Boyce. And it felt like a bit of a familiar tale in this second half that Oakleigh have just been able to defend so well. Head getting back, and Javi Lopez coming off his line to receive.
Pierce Waring's introduction to this game looks very imminent there, just in some final instructions, I guess, from the coaches there. It looks like Asad Kasumovic may well make way. We'll confirm that in a moment or two shortly.
Feely under pressure here, clears it away first time. Looks like South Melbourne will also make a substitution quite soon as they chase an equaliser. Here's Evans. Jankovic. He's put in a big shift today for South Melbourne. Mikola. Again, it just feels like they're going around in a U shape at the moment, are South Melbourne. Lampard. Back they go again. It has felt like just on repeat at the moment, just how well this Oakleigh structure has been. South Melbourne just not able to break through the lines. Strong challenge there from Boyce. Lampard. Here's Franco. Pope still going in a dangerous position. His cross takes a deflection and it's out for a corner. So a nice little moment there from Jack Pope, setting up a chance here for a set piece. And we will get that substitution. It will be
for the
Campbell Dovison.
Number 47, Asad Kasumovic, coming on number 7, Pierce Waring.
As you mentioned, Katie, as well. Pierce Waring coming on here for Asad Kasumovic.
Morgan Evans coming on number 26, Campbell Dovison.
Well, Campbell Dovison coming on here for Morgan Evans. So an attacking change here from South Melbourne.
just freshening up that attacking side as well. Pierce Waring, and what a luxury that is to call off a player of his calibre.
Absolutely.
He'll be key. He'll be key tonight just to really break a third here for Oakleigh.
Mikola into the box, nodded away, and Pierce Waring hasn't reached the heights that we've seen him reach at Oakleigh this season. Of course, he was such a prolific goal scorer for the likes of Bentley and Green Gully in years gone by, and Melbourne Victory's youth team, but we just haven't seen it. We haven't actually seen him play a lot of football for Oakleigh, and we will get that substitution now. So Kasumovic will make way now for Pierce Waring, but we just haven't seen him play much at all for Oakleigh since coming across from Gully.
Not at all. Not at all. And that was a very late change in the transfer window, just almost on the eve of the season, coming across to Oakleigh. And I just feel like he's been, I think at different stages he's been surpassed. I think it's a more of an indication of just like Oakleigh's attacking depth and their squad as a whole. But yeah, I still think he'll have a point to prove for himself, that he can be more than just an impact player for Oakleigh. I think that's what he's reduced to, and someone of that caliber will want more, will undoubtedly want more at a certain, and I think at a certain time, and I think ultimately he'll walk into any NPL
Absolutely.
side.
I was just about to say, Katie, I think there'd be quite a few teams that would be loving to have a striker the calibre of Pierce Waring up and firing in their front line. As Mikola's pass, will it sit for Lampard? It does not. And Kasumovic there just, as he slowly walks off the pitch, perhaps just making things a little bit harder for Jordan Lampard to retrieve the ball. We're into the final 10 minutes here. Joe Guest opening the scoring for Oakleigh in the opening few minutes. Alex Salmon sent off shortly after that for Oakleigh. Guest making it 2 from the spot just after half-time, but Rob Harding pulling one back. Can South Melbourne get something from this game? Can the Cannons hang on to what would be quite an incredible win, considering they've been down to 10, despite leading for basically the entire contest, being down to 10 for basically, by the same token, the entire contest?
To be honest, just looking at those last few minutes, you spoke about it being on repeat, almost like a cycle. South just forced to cycle possession, U-shaped, not really playing in through Oakleigh, but playing in front of Oakleigh, and they were just able to absorb. They need someone breaking through the midfield. I think we talked about Sam Franco. There was moments there where I thought he could have maybe gone in, got through the lines, and really, I know Lampard's tucking in a little bit closer. Lampard's not so much playing a fullback role, but it's almost like a second, third, fourth midfielder kind of at different stages. So, again, that should empower you to know that there's coverage. Break through the middle and make those midfielders work, because otherwise, the likes of Sinclair, Strong, they're just going to eat that up all for these last 10 minutes especially. So they just need to approach this a little bit with a little bit more risk and a little bit more dare. And if that means that means you may concede a 3, but at the same time, your season's on the line, it's approaching a relegation battle. They have to be, if there's not a time we can take risks, then where is it? This is the time where they really need to roll the dice.
Head looking for the run of Leach. Track getting across. Cleared away by Dench. No free kick going the way of Oakleigh despite their protests. And again, no free kick. Adam Duradovic went to the ground, and the Oakleigh bench is not happy one little bit. Here's Mikola. Crosses it into the area. It's not a bad ball. Just over the head of Pope. Guest. Nope, the ball went out for a goal kick off Jack Paynter-Andrews. Thought that Paynter-Andrews might have kept that one alive, but the ball was already out of bounds. So into the final few minutes here. It's a short turnaround for Oakleigh after this, playing against Bulleen in the Cup at home on Wednesday night. Then, of course, Avondale away in the league on Saturday. Then Green Gully and Port Melbourne in the next 2 after that at home. South Melbourne, they got 4 massive games for them. Port Melbourne at home, Melbourne Knights away. Then they play Melbourne Victory here at Lakeside Stadium before taking on St Albans as well, that game being at Churchill Reserve. So games against teams that are around them on the standings, big for their confidence, as Duradovic looking to put the pressure on, but Jankovic got back. Head under pressure here, and Franco forced to go all the way back to his fellow youngster in Head on debut today. And it's out for a throw-in, and well telegraphed there from Oakleigh to put South Melbourne under pressure and take some more time off the clock.
He's acquitted himself well, hasn't he,
Absolutely.
since coming on at the 45th minute at half-time, of course. Really, I think at the very least he shows he belongs at this level. Somebody, if you dropped in at this type of game, in this rivalry game, and knowing what it means to both clubs, and to acquit yourself well, and to acquit yourself calmly like he has, brilliant. And that's another good option perhaps in the offing for Shinsuke Hasic as he continues to work through his squad.
Well, you think after this performance, he's earned his more opportunities in this team, and something certainly to keep an eye on the weeks ahead, whether he can build off that and perhaps maybe even breach the starting lineup as Payne Andrews is ball over the top. Mikla looking to chase this one down. Does he keep it alive? He does, but it's turned over. And Oakleigh win a big throw in there on that far side. They're closing in here. Just ticking over 86 minutes played. The Clarendon corner trying to cheer South Melbourne on and give them that little bit of extra energy as they try and get something from this game. Guest. Here's Waring. Isolated here with Lampard on this near side. Taking his time there, Waring, and he wins the throw-in. Again, more precious seconds off the clock here for Oakleigh. And there'll be no rush to take this one. A win today for Oakleigh keeps them right in the mix for top 2 football heading into the second half of the campaign, which kicks off next week. That big game against Avondale at Avenger Park on Saturday afternoon, shaping up as, if it's anything like their round 1 fixture, it could be a potential for match of the season. Avondale did win the reverse fixture 2-1 at Jack Edwards Reserve. So Oakleigh will be smarting to get one back over the Avengers as Waring goes to ground and wins a free kick on this near side. And more seconds off the clock. Jordan Hall just telling his teammates, take your time, no rush. Actually, bar one player, no white shirts inside the box. Just happy to have everyone back and just perhaps just take this one to the corner.
Not leaving things to chance here at all, not taking any risk at all. They're just going to buy themselves more time, more crucial time off the clock. Just by looking into that corner, just going to make it so much harder for South to manufacture a counter that they were so desperately wanting here.
Waring almost turning it over. Guest going to feed it through towards Waring, but it's out of bounds. Is it a goal kick? Yes, it is. So Harvey Lopez luckily had a ball right there because he's getting things moving quickly. Payne Andrews. Here's Franku. They've got to go here, South Melbourne. Yankovic. Franku driving forward. Yankovic here looking to push the pace. Here's Leach. Mikola cuts inside. Floats it into the box. Pope at the back post. But couldn't steer that one on target, and Brodie Boyce goes down holding his head. And Jack Pope was rising there at the back post. But Oakleigh breathe a sigh of relief.
It's a good shape ball coming through, and Pope did really well to make connection with it at the back post there. Boyce looking worse for wear there. But again, more sting being taken out of the South attack, more precious moments ticking down here. About to enter into stoppage time momentarily.
Well, you do wonder how much added time we will get, because there has been a couple of lengthy stoppages. Perhaps maybe we had 4 minutes in the first half. I wouldn't be surprised if it's something similar.
Agreed. It's just, in terms of the goal as well, we have to consider a couple of substitutions, an injury layoff here. It's all adding up.
So Brodie Boyce will exit the play for now as after receiving treatment. All good to go and continue. And we're going to get 7 minutes.
There will be 7 minutes of added time.
7 minutes of added time here at Lakeside Stadium. So if you're watching on at home, you've got enough time to warm up the kettle and tune in for the last few minutes of this game, because there's plenty of time here for South Melbourne to get something from this, and the Cannons are going to have to hold firm here. We were thinking maybe 4 or 3, but 7.
Feeling generous, I think the referees were here. And this is exactly what South have wanted, to break on the opportunity here.
Here's Harding. Goes for goal instead. It's a bit of a cross-come shot in the end, and Dovison was making the run, but just wasn't able to steer it in his path. And Nick Feely making the save. Rob Harding already with 1 goal to his name today. And for his moment there, as Jankovic wins the header. Hall nodding it forward. Waring. Jankovic straight to Duradovic. Here's Cooper Head. Franco. Playing it short to Painter Andrews. Mikola cutting inside. Still going here, Max Mikola. Dinks it into the area. But Jacob Tratt happy to see that one out. Despite Leach's best efforts to keep it alive, it's out for a goal kick.
I like this now for South. Just continuing to push the pace, but now they're getting in between the lines a little bit. On some tired legs out there, so that means space might be a little bit harder to come by. Rob Harding again crucial to their chance creation, catching Oakleigh out on the break there. That's not what Chris Taylor would want at all. So that again, it just goes to show Oakleigh is still going to have to focus. And I can't help but feel there's going to be one more big chance for South to come.
They've got to throw caution into the wind now. As Lampard wins it back. They reset here through Head. Painter Andrews. Diagonal ball towards Lampard. Lampard keeps it alive. Crosses it in first time. It's into a dangerous position. Comes out to Franco, who takes it on the volley. Just couldn't get over it. And it's out for a goal kick. Samuel Franco, what a moment that would have been to score your first South Melbourne goal.
That would be a surefire NPL goal of the season contender.
Absolutely.
No two ways about it.
Nick Feely now sitting down and taking some time off the clock, and much to the chagrin of the fans inside the opposite grandstand. And you have to think this time would have to be added back on here. Nick Feely just taking his time, and the physio's out again.
Marko Jankovic even having word with the linesman here in front of us. And again, if you're not fit enough to take the goal kick, then simply have a teammate take it for you and move the game along. Move the game along has to be the word here. Lockie Kivas, I think, about to take matters into his own hands.
Well, he's having a word here with Nick Feely. They do have Lachlan Hart on the bench as their backup goalkeeper if they do need to make a keeper swap, but remains to be seen. But trying to take precious seconds off those 7 minutes of stoppage time is Nick Feely. But you get the sense that even though, you know, that they're going to take seconds off here, that those seconds will come back and be added onto the clock here for South Melbourne.
Surely, and Lockie Kivas would be well aware of that as someone
Absolutely.
of his experience as well.
Jankovic wins the header. Lampard sends it long. And a free kick going in the direction there of Oakleigh. Another big win there. A nervous moment at the back there for Hall. Harvey Lopez barking instructions, telling his teammates just to not leave it to Nick Feely. Go get the ball for him. Get things moving. So Feely to get things restarted. One in the air there by Jankovic. Dovison down to Lampard. Lovely diagonal ball there to Mikola. Lampard's making the run again here on this near side, and it finds its way through to Lampard. He goes to ground, the edge of the area, no free kick. Brody Boyce clears it away, and it's out for a throw-in. Franku looking to take things quickly. Back to Jankovic. His head. Painter Andrews floats it into the box. Mikola and Pope are there, and it's cleared away. And now a chance for Oakleigh to counter. Kingsley Sinclair. Switching ball, looking for Guest. Well played there by Painter Andrews. Calls for a handball. Guest wins it back. Dench. Looking for Duradovic, but head getting across. Franku. Back to Painter Andrews. We've ticked over 5 minutes of stoppage time played. Guest, great control there. His 2 goals are the difference here tonight. And a little bit of confusion here as Charlie Leach hits the deck, perhaps with a bit of cramp. He's putting a big shift today. Just wondering if South will perhaps make a change here. Charlie Leach just essentially rolling off the pitch.
Put in a lot of work, hasn't he? Been the engine room of that South midfield, going box to box. Not very much a screening midfielder, not an out-and-out 10, if you will. And we'll confirm that change now.
Cooper Halfpenny on here for Charlie Leach. Ball whipped into the area. Harding knocks it down. Dovison. Here's Lampard. Pots it back into the area. And it's collected there by Feely, who's happy to take more time off the clock. Each second worth its weight in gold. Another Oakleigh player hits the deck. And Feely's happy to put it out into touch. And it is Kingsley Sinclair who's on the ground here. Oakleigh edging ever closer to a massive 3 points here. Well, they're not going to give it back to Oakleigh. Instead, they're just going to attack. Head into the box. Nodded away. Franku plays it out wide here to Lampard. Lampard crosses it into a dangerous position. Not cleared yet. And it's out for a corner. Perhaps one last chance here for South Melbourne. Harvey Lopez is lumbering forward. Will we have some late drama here at Lakeside? Basically, everyone inside the box from both teams. Sam Franku, the furthest back on the edge of the box. Cross whipped in. Lopez rises. I think that was Jankovic in the end who got ahead to it. Feely makes the stop, and the Cannons hang on to a massive 3 points here against their old rivals. Oakleigh come away with a 2-1 win. They defended for their lives in the last few minutes. And they come away with the 3 points. Joe Guest opening the scoring for the Oakleigh Cannons. His penalty was saved, but scoring on the rebound. Alex Salmon was sent off shortly after, which meant the Cannons had a lot of defending to do. But Joe Guest having a penalty just after halftime, doubling Oakleigh's lead before Rob Harding pulled one back to set up a grandstand finish. But Oakleigh, they hang on. They come away with the 3 points. For South Melbourne, they head into the second half of the season, despite the green shoots they showed today, inside the relegation zone, and their wait for a win extends for yet another week. Katie Lambeski, Oakleigh, they get the win. They hang on here. South Melbourne, though, as we said, that wait for those all-important 3 points, it will continue for at least yet another 7 days.
Back on the score sheet, though, for quite some time, over 400-plus minutes of waiting. Back on the score sheet through Robbie Harding. Much better, much improved South performance. I know that it might be scant comfort in the light of a 2-1 defeat to one of your biggest rivals. But at the same time, they can take some heart from this. Oakleigh, at times, very tactical, very ugly at times, but also job done. And that has to be the key point for them. A big win on the road, a big win in the context of the title race as well. Joe Guest, phenomenal. I guess he didn't have enough time on the ball as he ordinarily does, given the red card to Alex Salmon, so they had to adjust. They had to lean in to their game management, and they did that brilliantly. I felt it might not have been pleasing on the eye. For the neutral, it might not have been pleasant, but at the same time, you got to do what you got to do, and they came out and did the right, and they came out and got it right in the end, and that was, they got themselves the lead, they got themselves in the position to play that way, and as a result, I know that they gave up a lot of territory, but it just goes to show you just the strength of that defensive unit. It's going to be their bedrock, and that's very, very clear coming out of tonight, that's for sure.
Well, the Oakleigh Cannons, they got the job done. They come away with the win. It's a massive 3 points for them heading into that clash against Avondale next week. But South Melbourne, their wait for a win continues. There they are, clapping off the supporters, who I think in the first league game under Sinisa Korhadzic showed a bit of spirit, a bit of fight. They gave Oakleigh an almighty scare, of course, Oakleigh being down to 10. But there might be something there for this South Melbourne team to build off going into next week when they play Port Melbourne, who are bottom of the league. A massive relegation 6-pointer for South Melbourne against Port Melbourne next Sunday. But we'll be wrapping up here from Lakeside Stadium. Thank you very much for your company on the NPL Victoria YouTube page. Signing off from Lakeside Stadium. The final score here, South Melbourne 1, the Oakleigh Cannons 2.